Welcome, everyone. My name is Dr. Heather Vilhauer, and I'm presenting this session this morning, Develop Your Personal Compass, really thinking about personal and career growth during a pandemic. So a couple of housekeeping things. We are recording this session. We will download it at the end and then upload it for people to watch. I will provide you guys a PDF of the presentation as well at the end. I'll drop it into the chat box so you can download it if you're interested in sharing it or using it with your staff or others that you know. A word of warning, we will be using breakout rooms during the session. If that means you're going to leave, if you could do me a favor and leave now so that when I set up the breakout room, someone doesn't end up stranded by themselves. So we will be doing lots of learning and sharing both kind of internal, but then also as collectively as groups as well. Um, at the end, you're going to be asked, please stay so that you can fill out the evaluation form. We'll spend a couple minutes at the very end doing that. The evaluation forms both help us understand what you guys are interested in terms of sessions, but also provide an opportunity for those of you that are getting CEUs. So let's go ahead and get started. A little bit of background. I'm a faculty member at Cal State East Bay in Hayward. I focus mainly on recreation management, a lot of research in the leadership area, a lot of work in justice and equity, youth development, and natural resources, or natural disasters and natural resources as well. So as we get started, I just want you guys to reflect on this number a bit. As of yesterday, that's how long it's been since the state shelter in place started. A little bit longer than that for a couple of us that are in the Bay, directly in the Bay Area or other counties that started earlier. But COVID-19 has really changed who we are as a society, who we are as parks and recreation professionals over the last 8 months. So in the chat, I'd love you just to quickly brain dump, what are some of the things COVID-19 has changed for you? Just quick brain dump, what are some things that it has changed for you? Daily routine, parenting for sure. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, so whoever said that, that has changed dramatically. The way we plan, um, Vincent, I like your social life or lack thereof, because yes, that's the way I feel, lack thereof right there. A lot of our work-life balance and what that looks like. No separation between work and home. Um, okay, so I like your plan A to Z, right? We used to have plans A and B, and now we're like, well, now I have C, and then I get to F, and we keep going. The travel or lack of travel, the way we communicate with each other has really changed and pushed us. I know I missed a couple in here, but these are phenomenal, you guys. Allowed us to become more creative, also more time with family, not being able to offer indoor programs, right? That's something that was a hallmark of parks and recreation, and that's really changed as well. Um, Kimberly, I appreciate that's an excellent one. How we manage our own needs for mental health coping skills, or in some cases, and I know including mine, maybe we're not doing a great job at that, at managing some of that because of work-life balance and all of the other things. Some of the things that I was brainstorming as well is some of the things about worker safety, right? We're concerned about just going to work and what that looks like day to day and staying safe. Financial security in our industry as a whole, and then maybe personally, depending on what your situation looks like. You guys mentioned the push to be creative and innovative. Um, and then some of the silly things, like, did anyone else see that we're apparently low on toilet paper again at Costco and Safeway in the last week because everyone's sensing the direction we're going again? I saw those posts. I don't know if anything else is going on shortage, but apparently toilet paper and paper towels are running out again. And then, yeah, just someone mentioned earlier, changes to childcare, how we get our food, right? How easy was it before to say, I want takeout? You walked into the restaurant, you ordered, or you called and got it, versus some of the planning we have to do now. Some of the personal growth, and that's really what we're going to get into next, is really thinking about the growth that comes from this. So a lot of people have heard about the concept of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. And there's a lot of research that's starting about what does PTSD look like for those of us that have gone through this pandemic and shelter in place. This is the first time we've really experienced something on a worldwide level of this. And everyone's approaching it differently. And even different areas within Region 1 of CPRS or across the state are approaching it differently. And you hear that on some of our CPRS calls, just how different counties are approaching it, even just within cities that are next door to each other. This concept of post-traumatic growth comes out of PTSD, and it's this idea that transformative positive change can result from a struggle with adversity. And no matter how easy or hard COVID was for you, there were likely some changes and some struggle that came with it, right? Especially for our introverts and extroverts are experiencing this differently. Our extroverts are really struggling with the not being social, right? The not being able to go out, see friends, do things. Okay, I can tell you as an introvert, I am struggling with the fact that my family is here 24/7 and they never leave me alone. Okay, so there's this double side, right? It's painful for both sides. Um, and there's struggles on both sides, and those look differently for everyone. Um, as we think about it, there's things that can come out of it though. So some people mentioned, some of the increased sense of our own strength, right? We have an idea of look what I can accomplish even if I'm stuck at home, right? Or look what I can accomplish at work. I got from plan A to Z and Z was phenomenal, right? Z turned out great. It may have been my last choice, but it's what happened. Um, Improve relationships with others, right? Some of our relationships have grown stronger because we're working either more closely in our family or our work settings to make sure things happen successfully. Um, in some sense, there's also a greater sense of belonging. Um, I know that within District 3, we've been doing a lot of phone calls amongst the directors in our area. And we have a sense of belonging there that we haven't had before with our directors. They're getting on phone calls every other week with each other, and that was something that didn't exist before. Um, a greater sense of compassion for what people need, and more responsiveness in terms of certain things. Not in all cases, but it's definitely there. And a lot of people are also, what they found in a lot of the research is people are experiencing an increased sense of purpose and appreciation for life. It's some of those small things, right? I don't know how excited I was to get that first takeout after that kind of became an okay thing to do, or that first Starbucks, or for those that have kids, taking your kids back to the playground for the first time and watching them all of a sudden recognize the newness of it and see and explore in different ways. Especially if you have younger kids who have grown a lot in the last 8 months, the new things that they can do, right, that they weren't able to do before. So, what we're going to talk about is this idea of building a personal compass based on storytelling. Storytelling can really be used as a tool for growth because it allows us to reflect on our previous experiences. Um, so it's an opportunity for you not only to think about the last 240 days, right, and the experiences that we had about it, but then harness the power of remembering those stories and what happened and take that and turn that into growth. So we're going to go through a series of prompts and we are going to think about um, what you've learned from the last 8 months and then also how that's going to guide you into the future. So you're going to have some prompts. When you're thinking about the stories that you're telling, I want you to think about you, okay, your experiences, not necessarily your family's experiences as a whole, but you personally. Don't let them focus on the news, focus on yourself, okay? So we're going to go through what's going to happen here is we're going to do two series of prompts, and then prompt and then breakout room, prompt and then breakout room. So we'll spend about 5 minutes brainstorming and then we'll go into breakout rooms. We'll only share what you're comfortable sharing. This is not meant to push you one direction or the other. It's just to give you an opportunity to share and to learn and grow from each other. So what we're going to do is, this is the first prompt. I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. What I want you to do is write a story or some notes to answer these prompts. the first thing that we're really going to think about is let's really acknowledge the impact of COVID-19 on the last 8 months of our lives. These can be personal or professional. And I know for a lot of us right now, there is no difference between the two, right? They are just right on top of each other. So the first prompt that your answer, or the first two that you're going to spend about 5 minutes on, is what is the greatest loss you've experienced during COVID-19? And what is the greatest gain you've experienced during COVID-19? So I'm going to, at about 10:15, I'm going to put you into breakout rooms, but go ahead and jot some notes down so you're ready to talk to your group then. Welcome back. We're waiting for a couple more people to jump back in. It looks like there were some good conversations happening. Um, if anyone wants to quickly share out, either unmute yourself or hop over to the chat and just share greatest loss, greatest gain. Does anyone want to share at all?
Hi Heather, this is RJ from town Danville.
Go for it.
Yeah, so mine was more or less personal, and I think some people probably relate as well. But for me, it was the loss of coaching my kids in large groups. And so taking that void and trying to fill it, I found that the time that I was spending with splitting my time over the team and my girls and kind of giving them the same equal attention. I've been able to learn more about my girls now, and those times that we used to spend on the soccer field or the softball field or basketball, we actually do one-on-one now. And so I'm getting more time kind of just getting to know my kids probably better than I would have if I was coaching them with a group. So for myself, that was just a personal loss, but then gain. So
Absolutely. Maybe one more person share if some people want to put it in the chat.
Chair.
Go ahead, Chelsea.
Chelsea from Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District. A loss, which is probably for many of us, is being in an office with people and working, sleeping, eating where you live can be a lot. So it's nice to get out when you can. And then a gain for me, I got to spend time with my 1-year-old daughter, which was time I probably wouldn't have had. But a huge gain in terms of professional was I was able to gain experience writing a full district communicable disease plan that we didn't actually have in place prior. So that was a huge gain for me. And I'm like so appreciative to my district that they believed in me during this tough time to be able to provide that. That's so important.
Yeah, definitely opportunities, right? Like just some of those opportunities that we never would have gotten because we never thought we needed COVID-19 safety plans for every single program, right? And some of those things. So we kind of acknowledged the impact of the last 8 months and really what that looks like. What I want you to do now is really envision the future. So give you probably 3 or 4 minutes. I want you to think about what are you learning about yourself during COVID-19? And what would it look like if you applied your learnings going forward? So think about what you've learned about yourself during those gains and losses, and then what does it look like if you apply those learnings going forward? So about 3 minutes to jot some notes, some stories, some examples, anything like that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up the breakout rooms. You're going to have about 10 minutes to share. Thinking about what are you learning about yourself and what does it look like to apply those learnings going forward? So I'll see you guys back in about 10 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had some really good conversations about some of what the last month has given us in terms of learning opportunities. I know some people mentioned it earlier, just some of the resiliency and resourcefulness. I think a lot of us have learned a lot about being creative in new and different ways. And so I think that's definitely, and there's a lot of that that we can use going forward. What we're going to do now is we're going to start developing your personal compass. And this maybe seems simple, but it's based on some of the ways in which research has shown really focusing on a couple of key things can really help us grow and develop as people. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think about your answers to the previous questions. And then I want you to focus on what you are learning and how you can then integrate that daily into your work. So focus on what you're learning and how you can integrate that into your daily work. Um, your personal compass is created by choosing 2 words or short phrases that take your answers to the previous 4 questions into account and creating a guide for yourself. So the words or phrases that you decide on are going to target your future intentions and purpose. And so when you're thinking about it, some examples might be you want to be kind and consistent, focused and fearless. You want to loosen up and let go. So those are some examples of ways that it can be both just 2 words or it could also be phrases. So you're going to come up with either 2 words or 2 phrases. One of the things that may be helpful, you'll notice that all of the ones I mentioned had some type of alliteration. So they begin with the same letters or same sounds. That's because it's easier to keep in your mind that way. So you're looking at taking your answers and then you're looking at taking 2 words, 2 phrases, putting them together to create kind of your personal compass, personal mantra for the next couple of days. So take a couple of minutes, think about what 2 words or short phrases will remind you how to apply what you are learning. Okay, so the examples I gave before, if you need some other ideas of just words, is kind and consistent, focused and fearless, loosen up and let go. And feel free to use Google for the thesaurus words that you need to come up with, or action words or description words. I know for me, I'm the worst at just coming up with them off the top of my head. So you could also just write down concepts for now and revisit it after the session and come up with the actual words that would be your focus. But remember, what you're really looking for is what is going to remind you to apply what you've already been learning. So some people earlier were talking about, some of the refocusing, the resiliency, resourcefulness, all of those different things. It's all those adjectives that in elementary school and middle school you were supposed to use in your creative writing. It's all of those words and types of things that you're thinking about. So I'm going to give about 1 more minute to brainstorm on your own. We're going to go back into breakout rooms for about 5 minutes because I want you to quickly share and then help people who may need some ideas as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms. You're going to have about 5 minutes in your rooms. I want you to share at least, even if you aren't quite to the exact words you want to use for your compass, I want you to at least share kind of the concepts that you're thinking about. And then you can always come back to those on your own. So I will see you guys in about 5 minutes. Andrew, what room were you in before?
I was in
Welcome back, everyone. I'd love to have some of you put in the chat what your two words are or what your two short phrases are. I'd love to hear some of that before I move on. Clear and calm. I like that. Coach and create, faith over fear, go with the flow, grateful. Remember your why, innovation and exploration. You guys have got some great ones in here. Flexibility. I think that's the one I'm going with. It's just flexibility, just one word. I don't need anything else. Remain positive, focus, open to new things. Great job, you guys. These are some awesome ones that you have in here. I want to share a little bit about some ways that then you can now use this kind of personal compass that you've set forward. So these are three different ideas. There's lots of different ways you can use it. These are just three things that you can do fairly easily and fairly quickly in the state that we're in where we don't want to add more work. So one is this idea of a 5-minute commute. So well, in Parks and Recreation, a lot of us are still going to the office. There's likely less traffic on the road. You may be working at home a couple days of the week, saving time, etc. So set aside time to think about what your day will look like if you follow through with your compass throughout the day. So spend a couple minutes in the morning, quickly sit down, or when you first get to your desk in the morning, and think about how you can use your compass for that day based on what's on your to-do list or what's on your calendar for today. The other thing is after action reset. I know there's a lot of, we talked about earlier, that plan of A to Z, or let me plan something and then it doesn't go right, because it's totally different, right? When we're running virtual events, it's totally different than what we've done in the past and what we have experience in. So after action reset is this idea, if something goes wrong, spend the time to reflect and figure out why. Then figure out how it could have been different, right? Using your compass. If you'd used your compass differently to recalibrate, to turn pain into power, movement and balance, and how do you balance things? What would you do differently next time? Okay. The other one is notice and share. So find a colleague or a friend to check in weekly, reflect on what is working, what isn't. If you're not able to check in with someone weekly, consider a journal to just note this went really well in terms of following my personal compass and this didn't, and how you can change that. The other really important thing to remember is that you can adjust your compass, right? As we move into winter, as we move into different stages of the pandemic, as we move and bounce back and forth, there's definitely some pieces of that as well to think about and what that looks like. So there are two different things as we finish up I want you to keep in mind. And the first really is that your compass needs to be adjusted as you move through everything. It needs to be reflected on daily or weekly on where you are in the experiences that you're having and learning and growing from. If you're not reflecting on some of that, it's a lot harder to come up with the answers, right? It's a lot harder to then say, this worked well, this didn't, if you're not taking a step back and reflecting on the pandemic. So if you want to do this exercise again, and I'll drop the PDF in here so you have the questions, things to think about is, do you start over the last 8 months or do you want to look at just the last month? Do this for about a month, think about where your compass is, and then adjust. What did you learn and grow from that time period? Okay. So I'm going to put two different session evaluations. There's one link in here for the CEUs. I'll put both of them in here, and then I'll also drop the other piece. So session evaluations for everyone is the top one that says tiny URL in the chat. The second one is if you need a CEU evaluation, you have to fill out the CEU form instead. Okay, so make sure you've done that. I will put the Adobe PDF in here for you as well. If you guys need anything else, let me know. I can stick around for a couple minutes. As a reminder, there's something pretty much every day at 10, at around 9, and then again at 10 for the sessions, around noon for like a social break, and then also again at 2 there's more sessions. So definitely check everything out. And if you have questions, let us know. Thank you guys for attending.